Hello, my name is Mitch Lacey. If you're watching this, you probably recently downloaded my sprint tracker that I use on my Scrum projects. I'm super stoked that you decided to watch this video. I'm going to walk you through several things. First, how to do that initial setup. Second, how to populate the data. So let's dive right in. First thing you're going to notice when you open up this spreadsheet is, well, number one, it's going to be empty. You have 5 tabs down there at the bottom. It's not super obvious on what to do, which is why we're doing this video. The first place you want to start, and this is generally where I start, is I will populate my team roster. Okay? So I'll add the names: Mitch, Joe, Tammy, Michelle, George, Emma, Elton. All right? It's really important to highlight the email field. Now, this doesn't have to be the person's actual email address, but what's going to happen in the spreadsheet is it's going to pull from this data set to be able to populate names. So if you don't want to use your emails, just copy and paste the names of your teammates. All right. You've got mobile phone, backup phone, alternate email address, and then any instant messaging or messaging information. Hey, person likes to be, ignored between 10 and 7 a.m. or takes lunch between whatever it is. So you could add some notes, or if they prefer Slack versus Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp, feel free to add that data. Additionally, up here, you'll see the sprint goal. If you want to add a sprint goal, add it. I typically don't on my projects because the sprint goal always ends up being something silly like, the goal of the sprint is to get more work done. It's like, all right, dude, that's totally obvious. Okay, so step one, populate the team roster tab. Step 2, depending on when you download it, the date, today's date, and the sprint start date that you see here at the top are going to be pretty far off. So today is Monday, January 22nd. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this field and I am going to put in January 22nd. Now let me show you what happened. Look in this area over here. Okay, in this area over here, it went from being all grayed out at 0, all right, to being fully populated with available hours. And here's the key. A 1 here would represent that the person is available that day. It's a 0-1 binary function. If I want, I can make it a V. I can make it a V, right, for vacation, or an H for holiday. And notice over here on the right, that those numbers are decremented. And they're decremented, they're reduced by this number up here, which is productive hours. Now, if I was to set this for 6, you can see that everything over there on the right adjusts accordingly. All right. So I'm a big fan of starting my sprints doing Monday to Friday versus doing it during the week. All right. That's just my personal preference. So set the productive hours to how many hours your team will contribute. This should include the sprint planning meetings, the daily scrum, the review, the retrospective, right? All of the taxes, the overhead involved with Scrum, that should be included in that. And then the number of days, right? So sprint days, in this case, 14. You could factor in including weekends or not. I typically don't because, I like people taking time off. The other thing you can do is allocation, okay? Percentage of time on project. In this case, we see here, everyone is 100%. So let me make these 1s again, and I will take these 80%, 50%, 30%, 100%, 20%, 90%, 10%. I would say that that's a pretty awful distribution for a Scrum team. Obviously, a good Scrum team is accountable. They are self-managing and they are fully committed to one project, not working across multiple projects. So I will often leave this just at 100% across the board, and I use my productive hours. For me, the productive hours represent the amount of time each person will spend on the project per day. So now we are ready to actually start using our spreadsheet. But first, this is critical. Please make a copy of it at this point, right? You want to have this base foundation so that every sprint you can use it. One of the things that I like to do is I will just say file save as sprint 5, save as sprint 6, save as sprint 7, and then I have this ongoing template. And then for each one of those files, when I open it, then I adjust the date. I don't do that in advance because I think it's kind of a waste of time, and I'm going to be in there anyway in the future. What we should be seeing at this point, right? We should be seeing productive hours should be established. The team should be established. The amount of time should be established. And then lastly, right, we have our sprint start date. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at some pre-populated data here. And what you can see that I've done is I've added the various aspects of the things that we do in Scrum. So for example, the taxes, I call them taxes. And this comes from the Scrum Field Guide, where I had a customer who wanted to know where all the money went on a project. So I came up with this idea and I've been using it ever since 15 plus years ago. Tax, sprint planning is a tax. It's the cost of doing Scrum. I know my team members, right? So if I go over here, I can see Mitch, Joe, Tammy, Michelle, George, Emma, Elton, and I can select my team members. Just for the heck of it, I am going to copy and paste just to make it easy. And I am going to do a value paste. All right. So sprint planning. And I'm going to do this for each one because if you take a look, I have sprint review 7 times, sprint retro 7 times, product backlog refinement. Additionally, we should know what these estimates are in this case. So this is where the initial column comes into play. So we're going to take a look here at the initial column, and I know that for sprint planning, it's a 4-hour meeting for a 2-week sprint. So I'm going to add 4 across the board. Okay. Whoop. Let's go up. There we are. My bad. 4, 4, 4, 4. Product backlog refinement. Let's say we're going to do that for 2 hours. Okay. And we can adjust as needed. Sprint review. Sprint review is going to be a 1-hour meeting. Now that's not the official Scrum answer. The official Scrum answer would be 2 hours, of course, but we are just going to do 1 hour on that. And let me fix this real quick. Data, home. And what's going on is it's not showing the decimals, which annoys me. So I want to, why are you not? Select everything. And there we go, 1.5. All right. So I've got 1.5 now allocated for my retrospective, and I'm going to line that all the way down. So what I've done here is I have now created, and this is the next snapshot you want to take, by the way. Save this, right? Get these meetings established. Save this, because it's just frankly easy. I've got all the stuff set up. I got my team populated with it, and I'm able to now start planning out my sprint. And in this case, I have laid out 3 different examples, all right? 3 different stories. And this is how I do it, is I go story number 1, and I just put the story in there. If I have an ID, all right, product backlog or work item ID coming out of a tool, maybe Jira, maybe a product backlog somewhere else, I'll put it here. I don't do that for the tasks, right? It's just way too much overhead. And the purpose of this tool is to help the team have transparency into the work it's doing, not for micromanagement, not for things of evil. All right. So no Sith Lords on this. Just keep it on the light side of the force. The team should collectively estimate. So do not say, hey, this is a database task. Mitch, you're the database guy, right? So you estimate it. Oh, I think it's 1 hour. That would be the initial column I, 1 hour, all right? And so what we want to do is we want to leave this unassigned, and we want the team to collectively estimate. So in this case, maybe the team says it's 5 hours. I still like using the Fibonacci sequence here. 3, 13, 8, 1, 1, 2. So now I have my initial estimate. And with this initial estimate, I'm going to hide these just for now for you. We'll come back to them. With this initial estimate, what I'm allowed to do is I'm allowed to see just the beginning of our total capacity. So if I look over here at my capacity tab, there you go. Total hours remaining, or total remaining hours of work to do 60. Total capacity hours, you can see again that bucket, 420. We have 361 hours that we can still allocate collectively as a team. And you can see over here, assigned hours. And of course, what we're doing is we're just summing up the total of each one of these. So each team member has the taxes allocated. So if people say, oh, how much does it cost? Yeah, it's 8.5 hours of overhead per sprint. Is it a lot? I don't know. Right? Depends on how many meetings you choose to attend or not attend. So we're going to do this now for each. And I'm just going to copy and paste because it's easier. All right. Oh, I forgot one. Yeah, let's make that 5. So we're going to go for all of our tasks. Right, we're going to paste those, and then we're going to paste those. So now, again, I can see total work, right? Total hours remaining, 173. Go to my capacity. Notice that's still 60. It's because there are no names associated with it. So this is really the key, right? We got 173 hours, 361 available with the 60. So I go over here, and this last one here, take a look at this. So you can see we have fixed, unknown, or undiscovered bugs. I get this question all the time. People say to me, hey, look, how do we account for work that's unplanned, right? We discover a bug and we're like, oh my gosh, what do? We don't have time to fix it because we filled our capacity to the very top. Yeah, that's stupid. So this goes back to that historical data that we would have. So in my book, I outline 4 different work types. So we've got, in this case that you can see here, just make this other screen a little smaller so I can see what's going on. In this, we've got story. The story is the stuff that adds value. A spike is an investigation into the unestimable. Tax, right? Cost of doing business. Technical debt. Overhead stuff, right? So, and maybe we would throw bugs in with this, but instead, I like to break it down like this. This is in that advanced reports tab that will be later on. And then sometimes though, however, people will say, hey, that's great, but my stuff looks like this, right? It's a hot mess. We got bugs, we got outages. How do we account for it? It's pretty simple. What I do is I go in here, I've got fixed, unknown, or undiscovered bugs. And if I look at that, I can see that I've got, in this case, let's say about, looks like 15%, maybe 10%. Let's make it even easy. Let's go with 10%, right? So I go back to my spreadsheet, my total capacity, 420 hours. And then I would say, well, we've got about 10% of our time that we're going to allocate towards bugs. So I just take it right off the top, 42 hours, plug it in there. When a bug happens, or an anomaly, I would go into here and I would say, all right, this is a precondition or debt, and fixed bug, number 42. And that took 10 hours, and I did it here on day 1. And then I would go over here and I would say there are now 32 hours remaining. So, oh, you can't see it. So let me show you what I did. All right. I added the bug. Fixed bug number 42. And then over here, I would say that on day 1, I spent 10 hours fixing the bug. And then I decrement, or I reduce, silly thing. I reduce, what do I do? I go 10 hours, and then I reduce this to 32. Okay? So I'm still in balance. What I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to keep it in balance. So I had 42 allocated, I spent 10, I have 32 remaining. We're still in balance. Okay, so life's good. So that's what I do. And notice it's marked complete, as you can see. The next step, right? Of course, I did skip ahead. The next step is having people pick some stuff. Now for stories, I just delete these. And I delete them because I don't like having a single person drive a story. It should be what's often called a swarm effort. Let's get the team in there. So we've got our estimates, and we would say, okay, I would say, I'm the SQL guy, and I love doing SQL work, so I'm going to take this one. All right, Mitch, yay. Who's going to take number 2? And we could say, well, maybe that'll be Tammy. Who's going to take number 3? This will be Michelle. Okay, and we would simply go down the list. Now, the thing that I do on this, and this is really critical, I say this in my Scrum Master classes, I've talked about it in my book. I have this 2-task rule. Anybody can have 2 active items in the sprint backlog. 2, right? Not 4, 2. 2 active items. What that means is I can have my name associated with 2 things. So I say, I want to take that one, but then I get really excited about this one under here, but I can't pick it. I can't pick it until I finish my other things. So that's what I like to do. Now, what that does, this is where we have to be careful, okay? We've got total hours remaining. We have 205. And I look at my capacity. I got 420 plus those 89. You can see now these are starting to populate. So advantage, disadvantage, or pro and con. If you populate this out entirely in the sprint planning meeting in the beginning, what you're going to do is you're going to reinforce a very negative behavior. The negative behavior is the subject matter expert will estimate the task. And that's not what we're going for. This is team collective ownership that we're dealing with. So the team is the one delivering, all right? And that's really the key that we're striving for. So I tend not to do that, and I do that at the cost of the overall capacity here, not being able to see that in the beginning. Experiment, right? Experiment with both and see what works for you and see what works for your team. Let's move on. Let me just, we're going to make one tweak here just so I can show you sort of how this would play out. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say that my sprint started a week ago, 1:15. Notice now, if I look here, I have day 8. Day 8 is where I'm at. Okay. So I would know on day 1, that we did sprint planning. So I'm going to complete that. All right. Maybe we did product backlog refinement. Move that. Let's say that we did product backlog refinement on day 5. All right. 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. And if it took less time, just mark it as 1.5 and then 0 out the other column, for example. Let's say that, right? Let's say that it's 1.5. Notice how it still shows 2 hours remaining. Just go over here and make it a 0. All right? You can totally do that. It's important to remember, have that initial template because you're overwriting formulas here. I just added a 0 to that, as you can see in the top, but up here you can see the max value formula. So you just want to make sure that you're always using that clean sheet. But it's showing complete now. Let's say that I get down here and we are now looking at, let's go to day 1. So remember, 4 hours are available. So maybe I finish this on day 1 in 4 hours. And I'm going to 0 that out. Great. Let's say Tammy spent 1 hour on it here, 1 hour on it here, and then 1 hour on it here and got it done. Great. Let's say Michelle spent 2 hours and then spent 6 hours and then got it done. Now here's the difference, right? For the meetings, I don't really care about this, but for stuff like this, Michelle says, hey, it's done. I'm going to make it a 0. I would expect something like this. I'm going to go add a new note. Michelle got this done because the flux capacitor, I can't see, capacitor was ready to go. So Michelle didn't have to turn on the flux capacitor, right? And I can see, great, that's why it took less time. If things take more time, for example, I go work on this one over here, and let's say on day one I spend 1 hour, but on day two I spend 5 hours, and then it says 2 hours remaining, right? 2 hours remaining, as you can see right above my head. But on day two I spend 5 hours as well. So I went over. So again, here I would say new comment, right, or new note. I went over because I had to turn on the flux capacitor. All right, so if I look over here at my analysis tab, you can see I have a little bit of variance here. And let's say that one took actually way more time. Instead of 5 hours, it took me 15. Okay. Notice the overall hump. You see everything increase. If I was to say, it was, like I said, let's just say 3 hours, okay, it went down. You can see that moves up and down. So there is some value in playing with this and experimenting and see how it plays out over time. But this is how I manage it. This is how I set it up. One last thing I want to talk to you about. We're going to get into this project-specific reports that you can see here. In the project-specific reports, right, you're able to see this view by the sprint, which is that upper graph. Right here, spike, precondition, DAX, store your feature. So I can see what my breakdown is, and I can see the percentages over here. This functional breakdown stuff was from a customer request that I had, where they said, hey, look, we want to be able to track where this stuff goes. So let me unhide these columns for you and show you, if you choose to use it, how it works. I put all of this as project management. It's just an overhead, okay? Let's say that these items, however, this comes into security, right? These are all security. This is a security-related story or security-related tasks, or maybe this is a security-related task. This task is data conversion bucket. This one is a notification bucket. This one is system framework bucket, right? This one is lookups. This one is data model. And this is also data model. So now, if I was to populate these to the rest, and I go back and I look at these, you can see the breakdown over here on the right. I don't do this today, and I fight against it, but I leave it in here because I know that all the organizations I work with aren't necessarily the organization that you work for. I try to disincent this behavior because I believe it creates a level of viewing through the function, right? Hey, you're a tester, you should only do testing. You're an architect, you should only live in the White Tower. You're an X, therefore you should only do X type of work. And that's not a behavior I really want to see. So I tend to stay away from this, but some people do indeed want it. The other thing I want to show you here, we've got, canceled, postponed, pending, and progress. You can populate those if you want. Just go in here. Under the type, and you can change it. Oh, shoot. I'm sorry. It would be, where did I have that? Oh, yeah. It's pulling out of pending over here. So if I was to type in postponed, I guess not. If I was to type in pending in progress, yeah, postponed, canceled. So if I have, let's say, let's make some of these in progress. So 0.5, I'll just do 0.5 across the board. So these are all in progress tasks, right? If I go back to the report now, I can see the amount of work in progress. Of course, I want to keep that low. I can also see the view here in progress, right? So the amount of work that I have in progress is sort of what I really want to minimize. So two different views here. We got your work item cumulative flow, and then you've got your burn down with the cumulative flow in the background. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this. This is how I do it. If you do have any questions whatsoever, and I love talking about this stuff, so if you have ideas for improvement on any of the formulas that you see, let me know. Feel free to leave some comments or email me. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the video and have fun with the spreadsheet. Thanks.